Welcome back, everyone, to a new episode 8 of the VolBoyz podcast. We know that Vol Nation is hype after the big dub versus Alabama. Oh my gosh, an absolute crazy game. Couldn't have gone better for Tennessee. Alabama fans can suck it, and they can stop talking about the refs. The really man that brought them to lose that game was Jalen Hyatt. That's all I have to say. Also, remember to take us on your socials. You can get us on Instagram and Twitter. That's VolBoyz Podcast with a Z. And also, while you're here, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Come on, guys. We got to get up to 100. And we might do a giveaway, maybe. Don't quote me on that. I'm Connor. We're joined by the boys today. We got Trevor.
What's up, All Nation?
Levi.
Hey, what up?
And we also have Andrew, but he's not going to be joining us for today. So we'll go ahead and get right into it. We're going to start out with our Tennessee-Bama recap. We're going to get into some reactions and also how we felt about the game. So if Levi, do you want to start us out?
Yeah, sure. Best game I've ever watched, ever. It's my favorite game all time. There's no question about that. It's the only game that even comes close to even being in the discussion of being a better game for me is the Georgia game 2016, and even then, it doesn't compare to this game because what we did last Saturday was something I didn't know if I'd ever see in my lifetime because it had never happened in my lifetime. Well, not in my sentient lifetime. I mean, I've been alive for Tennessee beating Bama because I was born in 2004 and we won in 2006 or whatever. But I've never witnessed it. I've witnessed us beat Georgia. I've witnessed us beat Florida, but I've never witnessed us beating Bama. So this was just a big milestone for the program, and it's crazy because 2 years ago we were firing our coach, and now we're here beating Bama and Florida and LSU, and it's crazy to think about. We just beat Bama. It's just and it was a great
Mm-hmm.
game. Not only did we beat them, it was just an entertaining game. It'll probably go down as the best game all season, or at least one of the best games of the season. And so it's just crazy. We played so good on offense. I think our defense is honestly like if you just look at the score, you're not it's not going to look like our defense has improved, but in reality, I think our secondary improved in that game because to me, I think once we started playing more man coverage, we were able to defend the secondary. But the problem is this week it wasn't the secondary. It was the D line wasn't as able to get into the backfield and get the quarterback, and he had so much time that like if Bryce
Mm-hmm.
Young's going up against any defense and he has that much time, he's gonna eventually find the ball and make a connection. So we gave him too much time in the back, and so that's why they made so many passes. But honestly, I was proud of how long our secondary was able to cover. But it just sucks. But I think a part of it had to do with Alabama's offensive line was better than what people thought, and so that was part of it. I think our D line's still good because we were still able to stop the run. It's just we couldn't get past pressure. But overall, it was a great game. Chase McGrath for the W. He had us scared for a second with that missed extra point, but he redeemed himself. But this game, I want to say one more thing before I turn it over to one of you guys. But this game definitely gives off Florida 1998 vibes because it's kind of the same exact thing where we stormed the field and took the field goal post. But not only that, in that 1998 game, I wasn't alive for it, but I know that the story is the kicker Will Hoyt missed a field goal, but then redeemed himself game by kicking the winning field goal. And so it's kind of like the exact same situation because we had our kicker, he screwed us over on the PAT, but then he redeemed himself for the win. And it's just kind of a lot of similarities between that, and hopefully, I hope it'll lead to the same similarity of us winning a championship. But
Yeah.
it's just, but you never know. But it was such a great game. But like, I guess I'll hand it off to one of you two.
Yeah, you love to see it. Trevor, you got anything?
Trev.
We're back. Guys, we're back.
Hey, Trevor.
We are back.
Yeah.
and this game really proved it.
Yeah.
I'm just so excited for this team. And am I breaking up really bad?
No, you're good.
Oh, dang it. Ah, all
That's
right, let
fine.
me try my computer.
I said no.
Huh?
What?
Like
Guys,
say-
we're having some technical difficulties today. Don't mind it. I don't know what's going
You
on with
might have to
Shredder.
Well,
cut that out of the video, man.
I might, but we could be fine. This is a
you
little
sound fine.
Okay. Well, we're back. Challenger did for Texas whenever they won their opening game a
Don't do
couple years
that.
back.
Don't do
You
that.
remember that? You guys
No,
remember
but
that though?
that's bad luck. Texas is not back.
No, I just think it's funny. It's just funny. Anyway,
Knock on wood.
It's gonna curse us if you do that.
oh my gosh. So, I don't know, guys. Best game I've ever watched. Most emotional game I've ever watched. Up and down, back and forth. I was really impressed with the team, especially coming out the gate, firing on all cylinders. You know, taking a 28-10 lead within the first half, within the first two quarters, and putting up 21 points in the first quarter really set the tone for the rest of the game. And we needed that because our defense was coming through early, and our offense was also clicking early to get us that big lead, to really provide us the cushion that when they did come back, it was still a close game instead of them being up by a lot more than they were at any point during the game, really. Um, I don't know. I just feel like our offense, it just gives me confidence our offense can score on any team in the country, as Levi kind of already touched on. And guys, our defense is improving. I know from an outside perspective, like Levi's saying, like you look at the score, you don't believe it. Tennessee's defense is not improving. Look at what we did against Bama without our starting corner out for the season. Joe Haddon was out that game with a hamstring injury. Jalen McCullough out with a suspension. Um, to have a walk-on play the last few plays of the game, whenever it mattered the most, was crazy to see. I think he even got a pass breakup. I mean, the resiliency of this team to face adversity. After we fumbled the ball in the fourth quarter, I'm all over the place, but after we fumbled the ball in the fourth quarter, I really did think it was over. Just to hand them a free 7 points was something that we couldn't. That it didn't seem like we could do to get over it to win the game. But Heupel, I've just seen so many people say Heupel did not waver after that fumble, even after that missed field goal by Bama. It was straight back to business, and he that last drive that the execution of that last drive to get in field goal range is unmatched by any team in the country. I think, and if that's not a Heisman moment, then I don't know what is. Honestly,
Yeah,
um,
I don't think there's that many teams in the country, if any, that could do that.
I doubt it.
That
I think
was
Ohio State's the only team that's close to doing that. But other than that, I don't see any team doing that in the country.
that was one of the most impressive setups to win a game I've ever
It
seen.
was. And I was so confident. The confidence that me, Connor and Andrew had. Levi wasn't there watching with us, but me, Connor, and Andrew watching. The confidence we had in this team. We're like 15 seconds left. No other coach is going to go for it, right? No other coach that we've had in the past is going to say, "Yeah, 15 seconds from our own 30. What could go wrong? Let's go get a field goal and win the game." Heupel did that, and we drove like 50 yards in about like 10 seconds. And Chase McGrath hits 2 plays for
Yeah,
Mel Keaton and Brew McCoy made a huge catch,
dude.
contested ball. He was met as soon as he caught it. What a way to secure that. He hops up and starts calling the timeout, and I'm like, I know you can't call the timeout, but he's just like, just give me the
He's ready.
timeout.
Oh,
He's
he's
ready
It
ready.
was
for it.
perfect 'cause
Heupel was ready for it.
he went down right at like the 2
He
seconds.
did, because that was the thing about Keaton. I was like, oh no, Keaton wasted too much time because he's like struggling, they were basically trying to keep him upright.
Yeah.
And he's not trying to get down. I was like, oh no, there's not going to be enough time.
Dude, and Hooker held the ball for a little bit too. It
Dude,
was
he
like
did.
Yeah.
he
Even
was
on Bruce
literally
pass.
if it went just a slightly different, it wouldn't have happened. Like if like Hendon Hooker waits like a half a second or a second
Yeah.
longer,
Yep.
it's like, oh my gosh, it was just
Even
perfect.
Brew was wide open for like a second or two before Hooker hit him.
Yeah,
Actually, I don't know. Just what a catch! This team is crazy. This wide receiver core is the best in the country. I don't doubt that at all. I don't know, guys. Just what a great team win. I feel like we capitalized off of Bama's mistakes, but also we made mistakes of our own.
Yeah.
It
yeah.
honestly kind of evened out. I feel like we didn't. I actually feel like we didn't take enough or capitalize enough on Bama's mistakes. 'Cause I feel like if we would have won by more. I feel like so. But going back, I mean, Hooker just did an interview maybe yesterday on like SEC Network, I think, and he said that this offense has not played its best offensive game yet. And
Yeah.
I mean, that is true. And uh I don't know, barring from that fumble and maybe from that interception, that probably would have been our best our offense could be, I think, honestly. It seems like the ceiling was last week minus the turnovers. But I'm so excited to see what they can do with Cedric Tillman coming back. But guys, what a crazy game! Best game I've ever watched. Like I said before, the biggest win in my lifetime, and a lot of the young fans' lifetimes. You know, like the new generation of fans. This is the best one that we've experienced, and I'm excited to see more of this in years to come.
I've never, I want to say one more thing.
No,
I've
you're
never,
good. I'm done.
I've never experienced the way I felt after winning that game in my life. Like just the emotions that went into winning that game was crazy. Like literally, we hit the field goal. So let me lay this out for y'all. We hit the field goal, so we make it. And I'm like, it like takes a second for me to realize that we make it. And my dad's like,
Mhm.
"Did we make it?" I was like, "Oh my gosh, we made it!" And I just turned to him and just like tackle hug him to the ground, and it was just like it was crazy. Like it's just like everything happened so fast. I tackle hugged him, dude. And I was just going crazy, running around screaming, going crazy. I was like, "Holy crap, we just beat Bama!" And it was just awesome. And I didn't even realize until like my mom said your mouth's bleeding. I busted my lip, and it was just crazy that like just the emotions that went into it. I wasn't even like paying attention to pain, but it was crazy. I still can't believe we did it, but I'm just so happy we did, man. And I
Mhm.
just hope we can keep winning, and I hope we can beat Georgia and make it to the SEC championship and then make it to the playoffs. I'm just so excited, man. But
Me, Andrew, and Connor did not stop screaming and jumping up and down for a solid like 2 minutes. I was
Oh
just
yeah.
maybe longer. I don't know. It was
It was.
the raw
It,
emotion. I mean, dude, we were like, he missed it. Like I legit was like, he missed it.
oh yeah.
I
It's
couldn't
it took
tell.
us a second.
I couldn't tell.
It's
I said beforehand, because this is kind of what I do. I kind of try to reverse jinx sometimes. I'll be like, he's gonna miss it. He's gonna miss it. And then he made it, and I was just, oh.
Yeah.
But I could,
I'll have
I
to.
wasn't paying too much close detail. But he did it. The ball did get tipped. It did, which
Yeah.
is crazy.
yeah, it did.
Some people were
If you
saying it
guys.
was going the other direction, and he tipped it into the goal. Like it was gonna miss if he didn't tip it, is what some people said. But I don't know if that's real or not.
Hmm.
But
I no way. He was gonna make that from 50
no,
yards
like
if it wouldn't have gotten tipped.
not the not the distance, like the direction. It got knocked by him
I
tipping it over.
imagine though. Imagine it did get knocked. No, that'd be crazy. If it actually did get knocked straight or whatever.
Either way,
But
man, gosh, it's
If you
just so awesome, man.
guys. If you guys want to see how close it was, you go to the Vol Football Instagram page, and you'll see it. That one video that they put out, it was mere 3 to 4 inches away from being short.
it's a
Dude,
game of inches, baby.
there's a really funny picture that I found of somebody taking a picture of the back of the ref, and you can just see in the top left-hand corner of the screen the ball barely going over the
I
goalpost.
love, dude. After the game, I love the reaction of the refs. They like signal that it's good, and then they just start
Sprint.
sprinting
Yeah,
for
'cause
the opposite tunnel.
they
Oh
know.
yeah.
They know what's
Yeah.
about to happen, and they were right.
Oh
Oh
my
yeah.
gosh. If you
Oh, yeah.
guys like, you guys should go on Barstool, University of Tennessee's Barstool account on
Mhm.
Instagram. The souvenirs from that game that fans got, like that they have on their page, are wild. They're awesome, dude.
Crazy.
Someone got like Henry T's mouth guard. You got Derek Dooley's field pass. It's insane what people got. I wish
Dude,
I was there, dude.
I'm wondering what they. So there was the goalpost, the piece that was left behind because they tore off all the goalposts, but there was like
Yeah,
one of the
the
support.
orange part,
Yeah,
or
it was
yeah,
stayed, and a bunch of people signed it. I wonder what the university did with that.
Oh, they're
that's
gonna auction
crazy.
it.
Yeah,
They're,
I'm really hoping they do something with it and not just like throw it out.
That's wild.
that's the thing.
A bunch
I'd
of people
love
signed it.
to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
people just went up to it and signed it, which is really funny, just
That's
because it was
cool.
laying there. But
Like I was here.
uh, but somebody also fished one of the pieces out of the river, which I mean I think they got all the pieces out of the river and like some frat took one and they sawed it up. But somebody had a pretty long piece and they ran into like Peyton Manning and Peyton Manning signed it. I saw a video of
Oh
that.
my.
That's crazy. Dude, also another crazy thing is people selling grass on eBay from the
Dude,
game.
I saw some video where some I guess it was like a relative who had passed away. She brought a piece of the grass from the game to the person's grave.
No way.
Just
Mm.
Dude, I saw one that was on auction. It had 5 days left. I don't know what it sold for, but it was already at $33, and it had 5 days of auction left.
Dude, I saw a picture of somebody had like a massive piece of just like turf freaking in like a
I did too,
vase.
dude.
Yeah.
She like pulled it out of the ground. It was like a foot long. Not even joking. Like maybe more. It was a couple feet
To
long.
be
That was
fair, you
wild. It
guys
was like a
can't
whole yard of
you guys
turf.
can't tell me if you guys were on that field storm or you wouldn't have tried to get a souvenir from that.
Oh, dude. I
Oh
would have.
yeah.
Oh yeah. I
I would
mean,
have gotten everything.
I wouldn't have
it's
post
technically stealing,
yeah, I wouldn't have
but
posted it like all these other people did because like you never know what could happen, but like I'm definitely stealing some grass or at
going to
least some.
Bama's sideline, dude. Going to Bama's
Yeah.
sideline. Imagine you get like a Bama helmet somehow.
That's what I would. That's exactly what I would go straight for. A Bama helmet. Just like hold on to that thing. Just get out. Just like get it and get out. Like,
Well, the
Yeah,
thing is
that'd
probably
be
most of them
crazy.
had their helmets on them,
oh yeah.
but
Yeah, but like think about guys on the sideline.
you could maybe find one.
It wouldn't matter whose. It would just
Yeah,
been
I
a
don't
Bama
care.
like
Dude,
from
it's
the
crazy
game.
somebody got
Bruh.
Henry T's freaking mouth
Oh yeah.
guard.
Dude, I saw someone wearing a Bama mouth guard. Like
Dude, I
someone
saw
had
it
it in
too.
their mouth.
Nasty. Some
Sorry,
Tennessee fans they.
Connor, you should go ahead with your recap. Sorry, we kind of taken over.
No, I mean this is the recap for me. I mean, just amazing win. I mean, just absolute crazy. Just like Trevor was saying, like me, him, and Andrew, just crazy. After that, like just that first like second of like, did he actually make it into just the screaming and jumping around? Oh my gosh, it was absolutely insane. Could not have been a bigger win for this program, especially this year. Our chances are high. And I love the way the team is playing together. Like you guys are saying, the defense was a bit of a concern just because of how they just switched on us. I loved how we talked about in our recap of the precursor to the Alabama game. We were like, our defensive line is going to do good. We're worried about our secondary. Completely opposite thing happened. Our secondary stepped up in a big way, especially with like not having the starters like Trevor said that we should have had. It couldn't have gone better for us. I love the way that we played. I know a lot of Alabama fans, and they a lot of them are more reasonable, so they definitely took it better than a lot of the fans that are still, which for the rest of the year are probably going to be saying that it was just the refs.
We broke all the Alabama fans on the internet. Like I don't think
hmm
the people on the internet who are crying still represent the majority of Bama fans because the majority of Bama fans are like they care, but they're like
Yeah, I feel like Bama fans don't care about losses that much unless they have two or more because they're
Yeah,
just like, oh, we win so much. We what losses every 2 years we have a loss. Like
yeah.
they're so spoiled for winning that they don't really care.
yeah,
And a lot of them are like, hey, I love that this rivalry is back.
It's really just the
And that's
diehard
exciting.
it's really just the diehard fans who freaking literally Bama football is their entire life,
Yeah.
and if they lose, they have to make excuses. But it's not the majority of the fan base. That it's like
Hmm.
this. It's the silent or the loud majority or minority
Yeah.
is what
Yeah.
it is. But
Oh yeah. I it a great game, and with that, and we talking about just how big the game was. It leads us into how the win actually impacts the whole Vol program. If Levi, you want to start out with that.
well, first of all, it impacts recruits because I think we've probably already gotten ourselves a few recruits just from that game. Uh, that's important. Which I mean, we were always going to get good recruits, but it helps a lot. But it also impacts Tennessee by shattering some of our records in the sense of we hadn't won a top 10 game in forever. We hadn't won a beaten Bama in forever, and there's some other stuff too some stuff that we did too that was stuff we hadn't done in a while, but I can't remember exactly. But it shows you that our program is heading in the right direction, and I don't think you can say that we've been a laughing stock for the past 10 years, and right now you can't say that. And so I think
Hmm.
that's huge for the program, and it's inspiring, and it also is huge in the sense that if Heupel can win with this team, which not knocking this team at all, it's a very talented team with a lot of great players, but you can't tell me that this team is going to have more talent on it than what we're going to have in the future because Heupel's not playing with who he's recruited. He's playing with Pruitt's recruits, and he's playing with less
Hmm.
like all of Pruitt's good recruits left. Like there's still great players on this team, great athletes who can Heupel could mold into being great athletes. But the thing is we're winning with 3 and 4 stars right now. We have what, like 2 5 stars on our team, I think. I think Brew McCoy and Darnell Wright are the only 5 stars on the team that are actually playing. I could be wrong on that, but it's just crazy. Once we start getting all these 5 stars coming in here and get good defense, Tennessee could be unstoppable, man. And this win shows me that's the trajectory we could be heading on if this keeps going the way I think it will. But I guess I'll hand it off to Trevor then.
Yeah, I'm gonna talk about something I talked about during the Florida game, before the week before the Florida game, whenever we were doing our little review uh, of the Florida game. We had Gabe on, great episode. But I talked a lot about how the Florida Tennessee rivalry would be renewed. You know, it seems like a turning point in the rivalry itself. If we can win that game, of course we go out and win that game. Then we're looking ahead. We're looking at Bama, Tennessee, and Bama. After this win, it seems like there's a turning point in this rivalry, yes, but also it feels like there's a turning point in this program, and that's the big difference from being Florida and being Bama.
Yeah,
It feels like we're back. It feels like this could be a dynasty, like you're talking about. It's crazy because it's only midway through the season. We're only halfway
Yeah.
through 22, dude, and it just feels like Heupel's already turned this team around.
yeah,
And I mean, I think that's the biggest impact is it just gives the fans, it gives the players, it gives the recruits the feeling that, we're back, that we can go compete for championships, whether that's SEC championships, college football, national championships. And I can't say enough good things about Heupel, and I feel like we I feel like we don't talk about him a lot on this show, honestly. Um, I don't know what he's done with this program, the way he's impacted this program. This win is just the fruition of what he's been building up to in the past year and a half, and it's the feeling that we're back.
dude, he's done I'll give it back to you in a second, but he's done like a 5 to 6 year rebuilding job in a year and a half, and that's just
It's
crazy,
wild.
man.
No one else. I don't
Yeah.
think anyone else in the country could have done this. Honestly, if you take
No.
Nick Saban in this role, I doubt he can do this. If you take, Jimbo Fisher, we've seen what Jimbo Fisher has done in Texas A&M for
Mhm.
Texas A&M. What has he done actually for Texas
Nothing
A&M?
other than recruit.
Nothing. And he's got like $100 million guaranteed. So it's just crazy that this is that we just lucked into this hire. Really,
He
I've
got
seen a
the
lot of people
best
say Danny
offense
White
they've
didn't
got.
even want to hire Josh Heupel, which is wild because he's a
Well,
homer,
it wasn't
right?
it
Because he
wasn't
just
because he
came from UCF.
yeah, it wasn't because he thought he was a bad coach. It was just because he didn't want it to look like he was just hiring
Yeah,
his buddy.
and
But
it did look like that. It did look like that. And guess what? It's ended up.
It
It's ended
worked
up that
out.
he's the guy for the job.
the thing
Yeah.
is,
And as long as he's here and this coaching staff for the most part remains intact, I like our chances to be competitive in the SEC East and to make the college football playoff, especially when it expands to 12 teams. Imagine that. We're
mhm.
gonna make the playoff pretty much every year from here on out. I really do believe that.
I think he's
Because
one or
you got teams that are probably gonna be 9-3 that are gonna make the playoff. And
Oh
I
yeah.
just the future is so bright for this team and it's so exciting to think about. The absolute turnaround. Who would have thought if you would have told anyone a year and a half ago that we're going to be ranked number 3 in college football heading into, you know, a game against Kentucky later this month, a game against number 2 or number 1 Georgia. We win those games, we're undoubtedly number 1 in the country.
Yeah.
Already have the best resume. The impact on this program, this win impacts this program by saying that we're back.
yeah.
Yeah.
Did
I,
y'all here 1 second? You
go
talking
ahead.
about Josh Heupel kind of reminded me of something. Did y'all hear about what Jeremy Pruitt said the other day?
No.
He
I
was
about the refs?
no.
Oh,
He was interviewed by somebody who's asking about he was asked about like Hendon Hooker and like recruiting him, and he said that he never met Hooker, not once.
Wow.
Like he still has never met him, which is crazy because he's the one who recruited him to Tennessee. He's the one, but that's just insane. That he also said some other stuff. He was talking about how just doesn't make mistakes. But yeah, but that was just crazy to me that he never even like met him in person, but he still brought him to us. And that's I don't like Jeremy Pruitt, and he screwed us over. But we can all
did
agree,
he bring it? Did he bring it to us, or did Heupel did? I thought Heupel brought
no,
it. I thought
no.
Heupel went to the transfer portal and got him.
Hooker transferred to Tennessee before we fired Pruitt. It was like right before. Like Pruitt got fired like a week or two after we got Hooker.
Wow. And you know what he would have done in that system?
Nothing,
Nothing.
Absolutely nothing.
because the
Yeah.
system
He
was
would have
broken.
transferred last year. Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
It
he would have been gone.
Jeremy
He
Pruitt
might have even just forewent his COVID year and just left it and just like stopped playing football for good.
Jeremy Pruitt's system was a defensive system that had terrible defense. Like it was just
Yep.
horrible.
Didn't help out his quarterback at all. JG had no help. But Connor, we'll let you go with your we'll finally
Hey,
get to yours.
hey, it's all good. I love hearing this talk, especially like you guys are saying about Coach Heupel. I mean, you got to think last season we had so much hope at the end of the year. I mean, even though it didn't fully look like it, and we lost to Purdue. I mean, it was a big year for us. I I remember we were all talking at the end of the year. We were just like, we have hope, and like that was on a first year new coach, first year new starting quarterback. The halfway through the or like a quarter of the way through the year didn't even start at the start of the year. And you look at that and the way this offense just completely formed to the Coach Heupel's playbook and the way he ran his offense in a year. Like it was that one season, and at the end of the year, we were in a groove. We were filling things out. Move on to the next season. I don't think it's gone exactly the way that we had thought at the beginning of the year, but it's gone away for the better because it is amazing what Coach Heupel has done for the Tennessee program. I love how it shows how the Vols are actually a team that can compete, and it shows that this is a team that can compete down the line, like Trevor said, and like Levi was talking about. It's big, but I think it also shows highlights to our other programs that we have with different sports like baseball, basketball, and stuff like that. Basketball was just ranked top 11 in the AP poll for this upcoming NCAA season. It, who would have even really been that big of a deal? Like, it's all over social media and all over the news that, oh, Tennessee program, they're having a lot of ranked sports. I think it's amazing for us, and I don't think we would have had that real highlight on that stuff if we hadn't been in the position that we are this year. And we were already talking about like different takeaways of the game and stuff like that. And I think it can lead us into our next sort of topic where we talk about our like positive takeaways of the game. Um, and I want to start us out because I want to talk about one thing, which isn't a lot. I mean, I already talked about it, but just Levi already did too. But it's just like talking about how our defense played, and I love to see the way that they played. Um, but I'm pretty sure I was the one that said it. I could be wrong, but like when we talked about in our precursor to the Alabama game, looking at our past games and our different wins, our defensive line was the one that stepped up. I think our defensive line got pressure on the quarterback, but Bryce Young was just able to make plays. But just those long extended plays where Bryce Young was able to get out of the pocket, our DBs got beat. How you can't ask any cornerback to hold a wide receiver for more than 6 or 7 seconds. If their corners are out there for 10 seconds while Bryce Young just does a little puts Tyler Barron on his butt. I mean, nothing against Tyler Barron, but there are so many times where our defensive line would just like break down and just try to over pursue, and even our like blitzing linebackers too. I love to see the way that even though our cornerbacks were being like holding the wide receivers for more than like 5 seconds, they were holding them. And even though there was a couple plays, they were like, I didn't see any really deep plays that you think Alabama would have with the star players that they have a wide receiver, which I really loved about the defense. So if anybody wants to take over on that, Levi, if you want to have anything about your positive takeaways, you can go right ahead.
Um, I mean, I talked about a lot of positive takeaways in my recap at the beginning, so I won't make it too long.
Okay.
But I don't know, just program's heading in a great direction with the offense and the defense. I'd say kicking. We do need to work. While we did win the game on a kick,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not positive. It's kind of a negative. Chase McGrath needs to get some more work in. Just, he's been pretty good all season, but I don't know. If we want to win a championship this year, he's gonna need to
You
be.
can blame the wind on a little bit on that PAT. It was
That's
extremely
true.
windy.
That's true. He's still a
It,
good
it
kicker.
looked like the wind carried it.
I still think he's a really good kicker because I mean he can still make kicks from like 50 yards, which is pretty
Once
good.
he hits 50 though, he is a little bit questionable, but I think the majority of college kickers are.
Yeah.
Um and he's been pretty accurate down the stretch. He's a lot better than Bama's kicker. He's a lot better than some of these top teams kickers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's not too much of a concern for me because you can't put too much pressure on him. Like our offense is built to score touchdowns. If we have to sell for a field goal, then I mean we don't do it very often because we're going for fourth down
It's true.
Yeah.
once we get close to the end zone anyway. So it's like either way, it just seems like 3 points is kind of something. It's something that you need as a team,
Hmm.
but it's something that we're not even going for really. We're going for touchdowns pretty much every time we got the ball.
Yeah. Um,
But I agree, he could be a little bit more accurate sometimes.
but I'd say my positive takeaways is just the receiving group. Definitely the best receiving group in the country. We haven't even had gotten Tillman back. Also, gosh, I don't know if anyone else has mentioned it yet, because I kind of zoned in and out for a little bit. But the run game, man, the run game was great this game. I think
Yeah.
it's one of the best running games we've had all season. Jabari and Jalen stepped it up. I think Hypo might have said, I saw something where Hypo said that it was Jalen, or somebody said that one of the coaches said that it was Jalen Wright's best game of the season, and so it was a great game for that. I will say I don't remember who was it. Jabari that dropped the fumble. Who was it that dropped it? It might have been Morris's
Yeah.
fault, but it was who was the running
y-
back?
oh
Is
yeah,
Jabari.
it was Jabari, and then Jalen Wright also got bailed out. He got called for a stop of forward progress right before he fumbled it.
That
Yeah,
was so close.
That almost cost us the game because we were
Yeah.
in the red zone,
yeah.
or we were about to be in the red zone.
But so we need to not stop fumbling the ball. That's our biggest problem. I mean, we did
Yeah.
throw an interception, but fumbling is probably the biggest issue with our offense. But
Even for Hooker
see,
fumbles. Yeah.
I'm not sure whose fault that was because
No, I'm
it was
not
a
saying this game. I was saying like LSU
no.
game. He had like two
Yeah,
fumbles.
that's true. But I'm saying I'm not sure if it was Jabari's fault or Hendon Hooker's fault because
I'm
we don't
assuming it's
know
a combination of both.
because
It
we don't.
kind of they both look like they both had the ball. Like if you look at it,
The thing
Hooker
is,
realized first because Jabari thought he pulled it.
yeah. So the thing was that I think it was supposed to go to Jabari, but I think Jabari just thought that he pulled. I don't know.
I think it's one of those plays where it was a read. It wasn't a designed run or pass. It was a designed
Yeah.
read, right? So
Yeah.
I think it's either Hooker kept it
Yeah.
or gave it, and then whenever he kept it, he was either going to throw or run, maybe like a
Uh-huh.
read pass option or run pass option.
I'm pretty sure it was
Yeah,
just
but
a.
I
It
think
was a straight up read option,
yeah,
maybe.
but I think he
Yeah.
was wanting it to go to Jabari though, and I think Jabari didn't realize that. And so because Jabari literally ran upfield without realizing that the ball had been fumbled.
Yeah, Hooker realized immediately, obviously.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, that's secondary. Hopefully they'll be better in the next few weeks when we get players back. Hopefully Jalen McCullough will be back. Hopefully Kamal Hatton will be back. We need to get better players back is what we need for secondary. But other than that, our defense looked pretty good. We didn't get the pressure I'd like on pass, which I said that it was mainly a problem in this game, but honestly, it's
Mhm.
been a problem all season except for when we blitz.
Yeah.
And I didn't really think about that. It, when we blitz, our pressure on the quarterback's been pretty good, but when we don't, our D line hasn't really been able to get to the quarterback. But they have been able to stop the run, which is pretty good. So I don't
Byron
know.
Young
It's
and Omari Thomas are on a different level, though. Those two
yeah,
guys are ballers. Omari Thomas, for how big he is, he can move, dude.
yeah.
He's like 350. He can move. I think he had the only sack of the day. Byron Young was in on it too.
hmm
Um, sorry, did you have anything else to say?
No,
Or
I mean you
okay,
go ahead honestly, because I
all
don't
right,
have
sorry.
too much else
Yeah.
to say.
Um, guys, I can't believe we haven't talked about it yet. Our offensive line,
Dude,
one of the best offensive lines in the country. We just manhandled one of the best defensive lines in the country in Alabama, and one of the best players in the country in Will Anderson. Will Anderson is said to be the best defensive player in the country. Had zero impact on the game. I think he had one tackle the whole entire game. Darnell Wright is a baller. That's actually his Instagram handle, but it's true. He is a baller. I think he won offensive lineman, SEC offensive lineman of the week.
Oh, he had to have.
Absolutely shut down Will Anderson. The offensive line as a group gave Hooker all day. He was not touched. I think he had one sack on the day, and that was because he held the ball way too long. Sat in the pocket, didn't get outside the pocket or anything. Had all day to throw it. Looked comfortable in the pocket. They could not touch him all game, and that's a big reason why our offense is so successful. And I shout out them. Shout out to I think it was Crawford. Pukes right in front of the Bama player and just starts nodding his head like, "Yeah, come get
Yes,
some." Like
that's
that was
it.
insane. That was literally the second time. Well, he started last week against LSU because Gerald Mincey was hurt. I think it's Gerald Mincey.
Yeah.
Mincey gets hurt again against Bama. Crawford comes in. I think he's a senior that's only started one game. Plays a great game. That's a big reason why we were able to run the football. Offensive line. Just I don't know. It blew my mind. That was the best game they played all season. They stepped up when it mattered the most. It didn't feel like we needed to double team Will Anderson as much as I would have thought we would have had to need. Like
Yeah.
we would have. Just because Darnell Wright absolutely shut him down.
Donald Wright could go as like a first or second rounder.
He's gonna be a first rounder. He's got to be a first rounder.
He's
Dude had an
insane.
insane game.
Dude, Cooper
And
Mays is good too, man. And we
dude,
have him for
our
another 2 seasons.
and Jerome Carvin. Like it's crazy to me that this group went from being horrible even while we had Trey Smith.
Well, Trey Smith used to be like the only
He
good
carried the offensive line.
Yeah.
Even Cade Mays was a little bit disappointing, especially coming over from Georgia.
Uh,
It's just crazy how it switched from, we had a terrible offensive line a couple years ago to having one that's I think they won like a midseason award. I think they won the midseason award for being the best offensive line in the country. I'm pretty sure, or they're nominated for being. I don't know. They're in the running to win the award at the end of the season. Big reason why our offense is successful. That was my biggest positive takeaway, other than the obvious ones. How we talked about earlier, our offense looks unstoppable, even against a good Alabama defense, best defense we played all season. We scored the most against them in a meaningful game, as in we scored more against Akron and Ball State. Those are not meaningful games. Secondary played good. I do think they did play an improved game. We kind of talked about that earlier. I said Joe Haddon. I meant Kamal Haddon. Anyways, biggest thing for me is whenever we did pressure Bryce Young at the end of that game to force that long field goal, guess what? It worked out. So why aren't we? I still don't understand why we're not doing that all game long. We're just letting them sit back there for 7 seconds, hoping our DBs can hold without penalties. I don't understand it. Guys are going to come free on any team for 7 seconds if you're holding it for if Bryce Young has the ball for 7 seconds, people are going to come open. It's just a given. My biggest positive on defense though was that last possession when they forced them to take a 50-yard field goal that the kicker missed. We brought pressure. We got to Bryce Young. We made bad throws, and it was game over. Similar to the Florida game this season. We brought pressure on the last play of the game, forced a bad throw from Anthony Richardson, and we won. It's crazy how our defense steps up in big moments, and they really bend and don't break.
Oh yeah, I agree with you guys completely. With your positive takes, I know I talked about it a little bit, but I just want to sort of feed off Trevor's a little bit with talking about our offensive line. You got to think Alabama had 0 QB hurries to Tennessee's 9 QB hurries. Tennessee had more tackles for loss, the same amount of sacks, obviously, but I'm pretty sure that one sack was a DB sack. No. It was the Amari Thomas sack. I remember that. Yeah. Still should have been taken down the first hit. I mean, I don't know how it took like 3 guys before Amari Thomas could actually get back there and sack him. Just crazy. Our offensive line definitely did step up. It's not something that usually many people talk about. But also going back to what like Levi was talking about with like the fumble. Looking at ESPN right now, they awarded the fumble to Hooker. So don't know if that's really his fault. I mean, it's gonna be really personal choice, I guess I'd say. It's really both fault. But I mean, they took out Jamari Small for that one drive before Jalen Wright. I'm pretty sure he had to come out for a play or something like that or something. But you kind of look at it, you can't really take Hooker out, even if it was his fault for a fumble, because he's the commander of that team. I mean, so I don't think it really matters whose fault it was, for sure. I think Jabari Small might have taken the blame for it, for him to be taken out for a whole drive, basically. But like you guys are saying, there's so many positives that we can take away from this team. And with that, I mean, how many stars did we have this game? I mean, if you guys want to jump into that, Levi, you obviously can go first. We just had many players out there that were out there, but what do you think your stars of the game were?
I mean, Jalen Hyatt, of course. It's Darnell Wright. I don't know. It's between one of those two probably on the offense. I mean, of course, I mean there's so many Hendon Hooker, but like you can't tell me with freaking 5 receiving touchdowns and only 7 catches that Jalen Hyatt's not the
6 catches, dude.
No, no, I think it ended up being 7 by the end of the game because that
I'm on ESPN right
it
now.
just says
6
6.
receptions,
Okay, either way,
207 yards, 5 touchdowns.
somebody told me it was 7. I thought it was 6 because of that graphic I saw, but I was just going off what they said. 6 or 7, it doesn't matter. Still, it's insanity. Catching 6 balls and getting 5 touchdowns is insane. So definitely Jalen Hyatt on offense. Darnell Wright close second. Hendon Hooker third, probably. But then heading over to the defense. This one's a little tougher. I don't know. They all kind of played great comparatively to how they've been playing. I'm just trying to think. Maybe Amari. I don't know, it's kind of hard to pick someone for the defense because the defense was good, but there wasn't really necessarily to me and like an outstanding like somebody who stands above the rest on defense. So I'll just kind of say Amari just because I know he got the sack. So, but then special teams. I guess I'll give it to Chase because he got the because he got the winning field goal, but
Yeah,
he still missed PAT. But either way, got us the dub. So those are my three: Amari, Jalen, and Chase. So I'll hand it off to Trev.
there you go.
Yeah, I gotta go with Jalen. I mean, why would you not go with Jalen? He just made the number three team in the country at the time. He made their defense look silly. He had one of the most explosive wide receiver games I've ever seen. I've ever personally experienced. I mean, that's wild. I mean, it's wild to me. His production is off the charts. 5 touchdowns on 6 catches. Like, who does that? You know what I'm saying? Like, and he was able to beat the coverage every single time. Just speed kills, route running kills. A lot of those don't even seem like scheme to me. He was literally just beating his man right off the ball every single time. If you go back on and watch that game, a lot of that stuff was just one on one. He's the only receiver out there, and they're not running any crossing routes or anything. He's just literally just beating his man. Hooker, you see Hooker be inaccurate a couple times to Ramel Keaton, and then you go look at his accuracy to Jalen Hyatt, and it's pinpoint accuracy every single time he's thrown to Jalen Hyatt. Just shows the connection between the two, the chemistry. Impressive. I can't say enough good things about Jalen Hyatt. If he's not an All American at the end of the season, if he's not in the conversation for getting the Blitnikoff Award at the end of the season, I mean
Yeah,
that would be a big mistake by whoever votes on those awards. Uh, Obviously showing, and I'm gonna admit something to you all. Even last week while you guys were talking about, hey, Jalen Hyatt's gonna have a big impact on this game, I didn't believe it because I'm honest. I'm gonna be honest. Like, really didn't have any faith in Jalen Hyatt. Even coming into the season, he had the big game against, I think it was Akron. Uh, Especially off of last season, I just didn't really have any faith in him. I saw him talk a lot in the press conferences. I thought it was great that he was performing, but I just didn't think he could be that number one guy for us. I thought it was Brew and Cedric.
yeah,
But he proved me wrong, and I still love him as a player, and I loved him before as a player. I just didn't have as much confidence that he was going to be able to get it done against Bama. Or I mean, I don't know. He started making me come around after that LSU game. I just didn't really understand what the hype was about until Bama.
The thing about Jalen is basically his whole receiving game is speed. So it's like the Brew and Cedric and Ramel are better at catching the ball. And let me clarify that. Like you say, put
Contested
yeah,
catches.
put Jalen Hyatt in where Brew's position at the end of that game. I don't know if Jalen is gonna catch that, but you put Brew there and he catches it because he's a big boy. He can catch the ball. The thing about Jalen is he's so fast, he can beat the defenders
His
and
route running is crazy too. I
it's
mean,
not contested. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how good you are at contesting the ball if you can get wide open, because that's all
Yeah.
that matters. And then you beat the players, and so that's why Jalen's one of the best on the team, is because he's so fast and he can get
he's one
open.
of the best in the country.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
Like he's one of the best. And I don't want this to come across as I don't like him or I thought he was a bad player. I just didn't really understand the hype, until this game, until LSU
yeah.
game. I didn't really understand it
And the good,
because I feel like he played really well his freshman season, didn't do anything his sophomore season. I think that's safe to say he did
yeah,
nothing his sophomore season. Junior season, he's come out starting to play better, starting to look like he's more a part of this offense, but really didn't come out to shine until Cedric gets hurt.
yeah.
He was on a similar path this season, I feel like, as last season until Cedric gets hurt. He comes in, or he's been playing the whole time, but he starts getting more looks. They're starting to use him properly in this offense. I couldn't be happier for him. He deserves it. He really deserves it.
And the good thing is we have a lot of different style of receivers, and it works perfectly because we got
Yeah. Yeah.
Tillman, who I think is the mix of Brew and Jalen, who
Yep.
can get open and is a big boy and can make contested catches. Then you got Brew, who
Straight up Jawan Jennings. Straight up Jawan
he's
Jennings.
just a tank. You get him the ball, he's gonna catch it and he's gonna try and make a play with it. And then
He is just a highlight reel, bro.
you got Jalen, who's the speed man who can catch the ball in open spaces, and then you got Ramel. Ramel is he can make crazy catches. He's just kind of
Yeah.
all around the place. He's a pretty good guy, but he's definitely the worst of the four. But like
He's
worst,
he's
worst,
still like a number 2 on
yeah,
most teams in the country.
Yeah.
Maybe
yeah,
number 1 on
worst.
most teams in the
I don't
country.
like using the word worst to describe him because worst for us is still like one of the best receivers in the country.
Yeah, I know. And he
So
didn't come
Yeah.
out until this season, really. So yeah, obviously my offensive player of the game, Jalen Hyatt. My defensive player of the game, I want to say the secondary as a unit because of the way they stepped up with injuries.
yeah,
I was very impressed by that. I don't know, it's to come out, still give up 455 passing yards, still go back to the bend don't break defense. Made the plays when they had to. But specifically, I'm gonna give it to Jeremy Banks. He's actually not even a DB. Obviously, he's a linebacker. Looking at his stats, 6 total tackles, but 4 QB hurries. Guys, he's the guy that we sent on blitzes. Like he's our blitz piece.
yeah.
Some of the tackles he was able to make in open space on Jahmyr Gibbs are tackles that no one else on our team can make. He's impressed me the past couple seasons, and he really came out to play this past Saturday.
I have
So
a
I'll give it to Connor.
question real quick. Is Jawan Mitchell still on this team?
Yeah, 4 tackles.
He did?
4 tackles. Yeah.
Because like I thought he was still on the team, but nobody ever talks about him. Like I
I
never.
feel like Aaron Beasley kind of fell off a little bit too, but he's still playing.
No, but people have been talking about Aaron Beasley all season.
Yeah,
I haven't heard
sure.
like any mentions of Jawan Mitchell except for
He's
maybe
only
one.
played like 3 or 4 games.
I know. I'm just
I,
surprised that nobody's talking about it. I mean, I guess he gets overshadowed by Jeremy Banks and Aaron Beasley, so that's part of the problem.
yeah, he does. I don't even know if he really. I don't know our defensive formation. Do we have a fourth? Are we running a 4-3? And if we are, then he's in there every play pretty much. I don't know if he. Because a
Yeah.
4-3, obviously 4 defensive linemen, 3 linebackers. So our 3 backers would be Banks, Beasley, and Mitchell.
Yeah.
But I'll let Connor take it over. His players of the game.
Yeah. I really, in total, which I know it's going to sound all like we just started talking about it, so it's the reason. But all along, I had a plan for Coach Heupel to be my star of the game because we didn't do players of the game this week, and we did stars of the game. And I think Coach Heupel and his just offensive play calling was. There was a couple times where he's like on that fourth down where like there's that whole long review where they didn't know what down it was, stuff like that. Just the play call, that was one of those questionable ones. But for me, that was really the only questionable play call. Like, as soon as Alabama started sort of forming to, oh, we got to watch out for Jalen Hyatt, which really wasn't at all that game, but just like the way he was able to utilize the run game with the pass game and the different RPOs that we ran, I think it was just flawless. Like there was a couple flaws obviously in defense on the defense side of the ball, and there was obviously those flaws on the offensive side of the ball where we had a couple turnovers that we shouldn't have had, and we had a couple of penalties on offense that yeah, we probably shouldn't have had, but it wasn't a lot. And I loved the way he coached the team. That's really my all around star for the game. One of the players I want to bring up, which me and Trevor and Andrew were all talking about it during the game because we were just like, who the frick is this guy? Number 28, Sean Rutger, sophomore DB, just came in filling in for the injured players and was a menace. Just covering the ball. There's a couple times where he got beat, obviously, but it's gonna happen in the game, especially versus Alabama. I mean, you got to think about it. He's second in the team leading pass deflections for 2022. The only player above him right now is let's see, McDonald with 2.
He's only played one game.
Yeah, with one game, he's like second on our team with pass deflections. Like, you just look at that and you're like, okay, that guy comes in and he steps up and he's covering. When our secondary all year hasn't really done a lot of coverage. I mean, you love to see it. It's almost like a pit game where our defensive line stepped up for that pit game. Our secondary stepped up for this game. And I love to see that. So really, I'd love to give it to him. That's really the guy I'm going to give it to, mainly just from where he was able to step up in that role when Christian Charles got injured also in the game later on, but also just like the way all of our cornerbacks just are, which isn't been a big strong suit for Tennessee. Like this year, you look at it, you're just like, do we really have backups that can come in and really step up in that role? And they have, especially in this Alabama and a game versus Alabama, like we've been saying, like just crazy to think. That's really all I have. If you guys don't have anything else, we can go ahead and get into the season outlook. But
Yeah, so
Yeah.
okay, well, looking at the rest of the season coming forward, I mean, there's obviously big games coming up. We got Kentucky after this week. Then we got Georgia. Like that's one of those games you look at, you're like, okay, like it's a game. It's going to be a tough game. If you guys want to go, I have something. I know you guys probably don't want to talk about it for a while, but I have something that won't really take a while, but it's something that I've thought about and I've talked with my dad about, and some of my other, one of my other friends that doesn't really follow football, but he just sort of looks at the schedule and he likes Tennessee and stuff like that. But if you guys want to go first and your like season outlook on the rest of the season, I'll end it off and have something that you guys might agree with.
all right. Levi, you want to go first or?
Um, yeah, sure. The season outlook, how I think the season is gonna go heading forward. We got UT Martin, which should be a pretty dominant game. I don't see it being close at all. I mean, it's an FCS team. Then you got Kentucky after that. I think that's a dub. I think it could be a good game, could be a close, hard-fought game, but I'm always going to go into that game thinking it's a dub. Tennessee could be the worst team, and Kentucky could be the best team in the country. I'm probably going to still go into it thinking Tennessee's going to win. It's kind of like the same thing with Florida, how they felt against us, and Bama and Georgia have felt against us the past 10 years, 15 years. It's always, in my opinion, it's a Tennessee win.
It does seem like the biggest trap game left on our schedule.
It
Yes.
does, and that's the thing. I say that, but I hope our team doesn't say that, and I hope
No,
our
I
no,
team
doubt it.
is
I
gonna go
doubt
in
it, dude.
preparing it.
Yeah.
But it's always just seems like it's gonna be a win. But I will say it's the hardest game left on our schedule outside of Georgia. So
The way our teams handle business throughout the season, it doesn't seem like there's any trap games on the schedule. But as a fan, it seems like every game from here on out could be a trap game. Besides
Yeah.
Georgia, which is going to be a game that is going to be extremely competitive. So
yeah, and then we have Georgia. I don't remember if it's the week after that or
Yeah, it's November 5th, so it's the week after we play Kentucky.
Yeah. So Georgia's next, and that's the big game because that's going to tell us what's going to happen. Because we could still lose that game and still make it into the playoffs, but it makes the chances go down a lot because Bama would have to lose in the college football playoff for us to get in, or in the SEC championship for us to get in, because they aren't going to put three SEC teams in. It's not going to happen. Um, but then after Georgia, we play South Carolina and or Vanderbilt, and Missouri. And Vanderbilt, Missouri, I mean, the way Missouri played against Georgia, I guess they could make it a good game. I don't think it will be a good game, personally. So Vanderbilt, Missouri, I think those are just wins. Like I don't see any way of us losing them. But again, anything can happen. You're the number one or number three team in the country. Teams are gonna play better to try and beat you because you're high ranked. So anything can happen. But then South Carolina, we're gonna be at that game.
Yes, sir. We're going to that game. Should be
Yeah.
hype.
That's definitely the third scariest game left on our schedule. I don't think South Carolina has the ability to even keep it close with us. I don't think they're good at all.
I think it does depend on Spencer Rattler,
Yes,
and
and I
our
don't think he's that
secondary.
good. If the only reason
He
they
has the
beat
ability to throw 400 yards on us, though.
he
That's the thing.
does.
Yes.
The only reason they beat Kentucky was because Kentucky didn't have Will Levis, and I don't even think Will Levis is that good. Like if Will Levis was in that game, I think they beat South Carolina. I don't think South Carolina is that great. I think that should be a win. We'll see. I mean, it is a South Carolina home game, so it just depends. It's looking pretty good for us. 11-1 or 12-0 are looking pretty attainable. 11-1 more so just because Georgia has been dominant all season. But to be fair, we don't really have a gauge on how good. Like they're good. Like
They haven't played
there's
anybody
nothing.
yet, and they played close against two bad teams. So I
Yeah,
don't know.
Playing in
or
Florida this week.
Oregon's the only good team they've played
I'm
this
really
year.
interested in that game. I really am.
I'll be
I don't think it's
honest.
going to be close, but it's a rivalry game, so you never know.
I'll be
Hmm.
honest. I'm rooting for Florida, and it might be the only time I'll ever root for Florida because
I
Yeah.
agree. Got it. Yeah,
we need Georgia to lose games. The thing is, though, if they lose one game to Florida and then
and they beat us. It doesn't matter.
it doesn't
No.
matter.
Just head to head.
But still, I'd still prefer them to lose anyway because if they, because I'm just hoping they lose two games outside of losing to us.
It makes it more interesting for us getting into the playoff.
Yeah, so we'll see. Well, that would also mean that'd be the crazy thing is if we lost to Georgia, but they lost to Florida, or they lost to some other team other than us, but then they go into SEC championship, lose to Bama, because then
Or and we should be
they're
in. Or they're
excluded.
yeah,
Bama's in for sure, but then that asks you the question: should Tennessee be in with only one loss?
but their
So,
loss is to Georgia, which is a two-loss team.
so it's kind of
And you
this
got other conference
season.
champions. I don't know. It's gonna be crazy. I've got a feeling we're gonna get left out somewhere or another.
If this season plays out the way it
But
should, uh, Tennessee should make it in the playoff, which would be losing to Georgia, but Georgia beating Bama in the SEC championship. But we'll see. It's college football; anything could happen. So,
the ceiling for me is undefeated. Or no, the ceiling for me is national championship.
oh yeah,
The floor for me is a one loss.
two
One
loss.
loss is in the regular season.
I think two loss for me, just because it's Tennessee football. You never know.
The floor, the reason why I'm saying the floor is one loss is because the only game that could be a loss for like the only game we're not going to be favored in the rest of the schedule is going to be Georgia. If
Yeah.
you go off of that, then yeah, we should finish with one loss. But I agree. Going off of Tennessee, you never know. But that's the beauty of our offense. We're talking about all these games that could be trap games. Our our offense is playing their best ball right now, and we're only gonna get Cedric Tillman back. It just feels like even if our defense has a bad game, which I mean you could argue that they played bad games all season, our offense is good enough to win those games, and it could be ugly. You know, it could be a high scoring, ugly game.
Hmm.
But you know, at the end of the day, a win's gonna be a win. Um, it just feels like this team is geared up to go play in the SEC championship and go win a national championship. Um, At least that's the hope for. I know that's what they're going for, obviously, and I know that's the hope for all the fans as well. But it just feels like, if we go 12-0, playing the SEC championship, lose to Bama, we're in the playoff. If we make it to the SEC championship game, we are in the college football playoff. There's no doubt in my
Well, we
mind.
should be because that's been the precedent that's been set by Georgia and Bama. But if they
It's
that
I
could be the
don't
thing.
I
This could
I
be
do
the
not doubt
season.
it.
This could be the season where
No,
they decide, oh, it's not. But that will show you if that does happen. It'll show you that the committee is biased and that they only put teams in because they
I
because
truly
they like
believe
them.
if we make the SEC championship game, I don't care
No,
about the bias or
no, we
whatever,
have
but
they'll have to, is what I'm
they'll
saying.
have to.
I'm saying
And it,
I'm
it really, I know it does depend on other teams, right? But you look at the Big 12, you look at the Pac 12, you look at the ACC, specifically the Big 12 and Pac 12, those teams are going to beat up on each other. All those teams, I think, have one loss except UCLA. If they get beat by Oregon this weekend, they're out of the playoff.
Go
Um,
Oregon.
well, Oregon has the opportunity to make it with a one loss to Georgia if they win the Pac 12. I see them losing another game. There's not going to be a Pac 12 team with like less than a loss or two losses. I really extremely doubt that. Then you go to the Big 12. TCU's there's no way they're going to finish undefeated. Um,
It's gonna be Clemson, Ohio State, and two SEC teams.
it is because Clemson's not going to get beat by another ACC team. I highly doubt that.
Syracuse is the only
And
chance.
I really hope Syracuse beats them. It makes it better for us for all these teams to lose,
Yeah.
right? Because then it makes it like strength of schedule. This is what. Okay, we're gonna get into the AP poll in a minute, and we probably should just move on because I've been talking too long. But basically, this is what makes the college football playoff poll more important than the AP poll. Is they're gonna take into consideration strength of schedule. That it's completely different than the AP poll, which we've seen to be biased. The college football playoff poll is SEC bias, which is great for us. And the reason why it's SEC bias is because we're playing the best teams week to week. One more thing before I move on and let Connor talk about what he was going to talk about. Saw something on Twitter. LSU fan. He says, if you guys look at our schedule for 2025, and he shows the schedule, and it's Clemson, Bama, and Georgia.
Yep.
Guys, we play Bama and Georgia every year, and we just played the ACC champion from last year.
Yeah.
So you're telling me, I don't know. It's just crazy. You're
But
telling
they're
me we don't have the best strength of schedule in the country right now.
but they're
Then you're
not
crazy.
but they're not ranked. They're not ranked. They're not ranked.
We
Shut
we we beat
up.
them out of the poll. It ends
Shut
up to where
up.
we beat them out of we beat them out of the poll. That's just what happens. All those teams are still good teams. Pitt questionable, still a good team.
Pitt's questionable because they lost to Georgia Tech. That's fair.
But
It's
Florida,
it's fair.
LSU, good teams. LSU just beat Florida. LSU is playing Ole Miss this weekend, and Florida's playing Georgia this weekend. We'll see how they stack up. But I'll let Connor take over
Well,
from
no,
here.
1 second. It's fair to question that those teams are like those top 20 because they're not technically top 25 teams anymore. But still, it doesn't shy away from the fact that Tennessee still has the hardest schedule out of all the top teams. Because even though they aren't top 25 teams anymore, they're still better than Toledo and freaking whoever Ohio State's played.
Ohio State has played one team above 500,
So
and that is Toledo.
it doesn't matter that they're not ranked anymore because they're still harder games than anything Ohio State's played. So the conversation of whether or not it's a top 25 team or not literally could matter less because still when you compare the teams, it's still Tennessee has played harder games. And
We
even
have
then,
2 road top 25
and even
wins.
then LSU is a top 25 team. They I don't care
They
if
are.
we killed
Yeah,
them.
they are.
They're probably
They,
out of the four teams we beat other than
they are
Bama,
favored.
they're the
They are
best.
favored to beat Ole Miss this weekend.
Yeah.
They are favored to beat Ole Miss this weekend. I'll let Connor take over.
It's all good, guys. Really, this is a whole just thinking about it. It can go many ways for Tennessee, obviously, but one of the things which really the outline of what it has to happen isn't unrealistic. But when you look at the schedules coming up, and obviously the games that Tennessee has, If Tennessee loses to Georgia, I'd be 100% okay with that. Really, the only reason is because if Tennessee makes it to the SEC championship, who are they going to play? Most likely, it's going to be Alabama. The only good thing I could see coming from that is if Ole Miss beats Alabama and is the top of the West. I'd love to see Tennessee Ole Miss SEC championship. If Tennessee has to play Alabama again in the SEC championship, even if we do win that game, it's an extra game that win or lose, our players are going to be tired. If we make it into the college football playoffs, our players are going to be tired, and it's going to be that extra game. If we lose to Georgia, they're going to be atop of the East. Georgia, Alabama, even Georgia, Ole Miss, SEC championship, depending on how the Alabama Ole Miss game goes, obviously. Georgia, I think if Georgia plays Alabama this year, they're going to lose. That's what I think. Depending on how Alabama's ranked, if we lose to Georgia, you got to look. We still have a chance to make the college football playoffs because you know who plays last week of the season? Michigan, Ohio State. No matter who wins or loses that, someone's going to be about out of the top four. Either Michigan or Ohio State.
And
If
one of them's not going to
Michigan-
make the Big Ten championship game.
Yeah. If Michigan beats Ohio State, that's a big game because puts Michigan in, Ohio State drops.
Yeah.
Tennessee still has a chance to make it in. It's a lot of things have to happen, obviously, for that to happen. But if Tennessee makes it in without playing an SEC championship game, it just gives them an extra week to prepare, which I'd love to see. I'd rather have us be in an SEC championship, especially if it's against Ole Miss, like I said. But it worries me getting into an SEC championship where we play Alabama again, especially with how close the Alabama game was.
Well, it worries me getting not into the SEC championship because if you don't get into the SEC championship, it's not guaranteed that you're getting into the playoff.
I see where you're
Mhm.
coming from, Connor. Though, like,
I agree.
it's another very competitive game that we don't necessarily have to play to get into the college football playoff.
Yeah.
It's like we're playing Bama, and then we're playing potentially a playoff game and a national championship game. That's 3 games back to back to back that are going to be the most competitive games we're going to play all season.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I
I w-
agree, but I also
Yeah.
think that if we don't make it to the SEC championship, there's a very good chance we don't make it to the playoff because there's a good chance Bama could beat Georgia.
Yeah.
And if that happens, we're not in. I don't think there's any way they
Yeah.
put us in if that happens. So it's kind of like you're
It
playing,
also-
playing with it.
Yeah.
That's what
It also does depend, exactly what really happens. We're not going to know by the Georgia game if we should we. Obviously we want to keep it close no matter if we win or lose. But you got to think Alabama does play Mississippi State this next week. Don't think that Mississippi State will win, but just with the heartbreaking loss of Tennessee and how many penalties they have, my goodness. Where they also play LSU that next week and Ole Miss.
Bama's schedule's not easy from here on out,
Yeah.
dude. Like, they got 3 games back to back to back. They're gonna be tough.
There is something, and obviously you want to play the SEC championship because that is an extra game. Hey, we played this extra game, we got in. It definitely ups our stocks, but you sort of look at it and or even if Alabama and Georgia play, and like Levi was saying, if Georgia beats Alabama, we're in no matter what. Like, we have to be in no matter what. Alabama can't be top 4 and lose to the number 1 team and not drop out of the top 4 unless they were 1 and 2. Especially if Tennessee's still top 4. I don't. There's so many options that can happen, or so many things that have to happen for certain things. There's obviously things that you want to happen. But yeah, Trevor.
I was just gonna bring up the point you made about Ohio State and Michigan. Like, guys, what if it comes down to the 4th spot, right? It's an 11-1 Tennessee or an 11-1 or Ohio State. Getting into the playoff, you got to put Tennessee in, right?
Yeah, you have to strength the schedule. Yeah, you have
put
to
Tennessee in,
because if you're you're going to put 2 Big Ten teams in.
Yeah, there's no way they do that. There's no way they do that. In that scenario, it would have to be I don't know, it'd be like Georgia, Clemson, Michigan, and then the last team would be us, Ohio State.
Mm-hmm. I think that's something.
Unless Man, I don't know. That's leaving out the Big 12 and the Pac-12. It's gonna be it's gonna be so tough for us to get in.
And
Either way.
Michigan this week or this next week because they have a bye week, is playing Michigan State. That's a big game because Michigan State has always stepped up for Michigan. Like,
Yeah,
no matter what year it is, they've always stepped up. You think if Michigan loses and then comes out and beats Ohio State, which is what they did last year.
yeah.
I could see that happening because that's really Ohio State's like only game. I mean, they play Iowa this week. What,
Iowa's got the worst offense in the
bruh?
country.
Yeah, it's like unless they just go off this game and their defense steps up, there's so many like ways that this could go, and obviously there's a lot of there's not a lot of ways where Tennessee can make it in, but there are like reasonable ways. Like
So
they
it
aren't
comes
just
down to
outfetched.
Yeah. So it comes down to we control our own destiny. We win games and we get in. That's all it comes
Yeah.
down to. I mean, that's what it comes
Yeah.
down to for any team, I guess. But
Oh yeah.
it really does feel like we control our own destiny.
hmm And I mean, with that, we can go ahead and hop in. We'll go ahead and talk a little bit about the AP poll before we get into our Heisman, since we were obviously talking about it. You look at it. I agree with some of the stuff, obviously, that's on there. Obviously, the AP poll is biased, and it's something that you can't just be like, okay, obviously, Alabama's number 6. There's no way they make the college football playoffs, even if they win out, because unless all the teams above them win out, they could still have some sort of chance if they play SEC championship. You look at it, you got Georgia number 1, Ohio State number 2, which is obviously debatable, Tennessee 3, Michigan 4, and Clemson 5, rounding out that top 5. What do you guys think about the top 5 for that?
We got disrespected a little bit. I think we should be higher. If you're going based solely on strength of schedule and the best team right now in the country, then we should be number 1, I think. And that's not even like Tennessee. I don't even think that's Tennessee bias, really.
No.
You go strength of schedule, you go performance, we should be number 1. I think it's interesting how we got 15 votes for number 1. Ohio State got 17. So we're literally neck and neck with Ohio State right now. Like,
Yeah.
it seems like those two could be flipped and it would be fine. I think it was because Ohio State was on a bye. But again, go back to their schedule. Second best offense in the country behind us. Who have they played? Nobody. They scored 21 against Notre Dame. Notre Dame's 3-3.
Yep.
And the rest of the games, they scored at least 45 points. So obviously their offense is scary to a certain extent, but
It'd be like
they
if we played.
haven't played anybody. So
It'd be like if we played the schedule. You can't tell me if we played the same schedules, then we wouldn't have the same record or have scored way more points, or just about the exact same points or more.
I think we would have won by a lot more.
Oh, if we would have played Ohio State schedule, we would not have been close to top 15. There's no way that they would have put us there. If we had the same schedule.
Oh, yeah, I got you, Connor. Yeah, I agree with that.
We probably would be top 15.
We'd be top 10, probably,
we
but
wouldn't be where we are now.
No.
And that's the thing, is the AP poll is so dumb because the voters don't give a crap about scheduling, or they don't give a crap about who you've played. All they give a crap about is the teams at the top at the beginning of the season. And it's like, it doesn't change. So let's say there's a team who's number 1 at the beginning of the season. They play 6 teams. It's a close game every single time, and it's against not too great teams.
They're still going to be number 1.
They're still going to be number 1 because they didn't lose.
Yeah.
But it's them being number 1 was based off of the beginning of the season. It's not, and it's no longer based off of.
We came all the way from outside the poll.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And so they kind of just based the rankings off of like where you were at the beginning of the season, and if you don't lose, you stay where you are, and that is stupid.
I'm glad we jumped Michigan and Clemson though.
Oh yeah, we should have.
Yeah.
But other than that, I think we are legitimately probably the 3rd best team in the country. I think Ohio State and Georgia are probably 2 better teams.
I do agree with that statement, but if you're going off of performance, then we're the best team in the country. Which I think that's what the ranking should be. It shouldn't be. It should not. It should be how your team's playing.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially if it doesn't matter. I mean,
because
with the
Ohio
AP poll,
State's still going to be like number 3 or 4. It's like.
Yeah, I don't get it.
I don't know why you can't just rank Tennessee number 1, because there's a chance that this is the best they're going to be all season, and so you just give them the number one ranking because it's nice to have that, and so it's
Yeah,
like
and if they
it's just
lose, they
fun.
lose. I mean,
I like
it,
how Ohio State's still giving up about 3 touchdowns a game though
mhm.
against.
Their
Oh,
defense
like they,
is their defense is probably better than ours, but I
it
mean,
it's
they don't
better
hold
than.
anyone.
I'd say it's about the same as Bama. Georgia's got
Yeah,
the probably got the best
Yeah.
defense in the country.
All right.
mhm.
So do
But
we want to head into
yeah, it
Heisman?
feels like Bama and Ohio State. Yeah, unless Connor's got you got anything for the people.
Nothing really. I mean, I could just see that Oregon UCL game is also going to decide that lower half of the top
Yeah.
10. There's really not too much that you can really say about it. I mean, it's already set. Tennessee's going to go proof, and I think after this next week, we could depends on how the Iowa game goes. I don't think we're going to jump, but we're definitely not going to drop at all.
Yeah.
Like
No, we won't drop. but
Michigan can't
we should.
jump us. Clemson definitely shouldn't jump us. Like there's no way beating Syracuse. So
If we beat Kentucky in a couple weeks, we should be number 2. I think it should be 1 and 2 going into that Georgia game. Honestly,
mhm.
but
Yeah.
the thing about the poll is there's still a lot of teams left that are really good. But
Yeah.
the good thing is they all have to play each other. So
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
there's
So
that.
we'll find out at the end of the season. But yeah, like Levi said, we're going to go ahead and get into the Heisman odds. A little slight discussion about that. There is a new number one in the house. I know we want Tennessee to be that number one, but I like it a lot better with Hendon Heisman being number one. How do you guys feel about that?
He deserves it. I mean, he's the best player on one of the best teams in the country.
Yep.
CJ Stroud's put up better numbers, you could say. Once
But
again, go
he's-
back to strength of schedule.
Yeah, versus who?
I think he's also thrown more interceptions, I'm pretty sure.
Yep. Against worse teams. So it just
It
keeps.
to me, it still feels like his Heisman to lose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just don't see them giving to Hooker. I want them to
Dude,
so bad.
No, here's
Unless
the thing.
Stroud gets hurt.
If Tennessee goes 12-0, they have to give it to Hooker. You can't tell
Dude,
me
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't know. Looking at
Tennessee goes
dude,
12-0 against this schedule. You can't tell me that Hooker's not getting that thing.
yeah, I mean, he should.
This
He deserves
schedule,
it.
it's the if they give it to Stroud and we're 12-0, that'll be the biggest snub of all time, I think.
See, I agree that he deserves it. I'm just saying it just feels like it's CJ Stroud's race to lose just because
Oh
like
yeah.
he's completed 70% of his passes, 1,700 yards, 24 touchdowns. His stats are very comparable in the
Against
sense of
Toledo.
accuracy. Against yes, I know he threw like 7 touchdown passes against Toledo. You can't tell me
the
that
thing is,
Hooker wouldn't
no,
do the same thing.
But the thing is, the problem is the biggest problem I have with it is we don't give the Heisman to teams on Western Kentucky, players on Western Kentucky who putting up these insane yards because they don't play anyone. Why
Yeah.
is it when
So
Ohio
why would you do
State
the
does
same
it
thing?
though, we give them the award? So it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
CJ Stroud's good, Ohio State's good, they're probably great, but if you're basing them being good off their stats. You can't really do that because their stats are based off of them beating really bad teams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's as if Tennessee played cupcake games every game of the season. Tennessee would most likely have even better stats than they have now if they did that. And so
I'm really
it's
excited about
just
this though.
dumb.
Because
Oh
it's
yeah.
going to come down to I think he's going to be Hooker's the best player in the country, and it's going to come down to if he ends up losing this, if he ends up losing the Heisman, people are going to be even people that are not Vols fans are going to understand that he got snubbed. I think.
Oh yeah.
for sure.
He's gonna be top two. He's gonna be top two. Like no
He's
matter
gotta be
what
top-
comes
it's
down
gotta
to
be
it,
a
he's gonna be
tight
top
voting.
two.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
He's got
And-
to be.
Yeah, and you look at these odds, they don't mean anything. Like it's really just okay, these are sort of what we think because it can be different for anybody. Like really with odds, like I could even say like freaking Will Levis is going to be Heisman. Will Levis for Heisman. But it doesn't matter once it comes down to the actual votes.
Yeah.
At the end, and I think if they look at it, even if Tennessee loses to like Georgia, if Hendon Hooker throws up like 300 something yards, 3 or 4, 5 passing touchdowns like he did for Alabama, and it's a close game and we lose it, I don't think he should really lose that first place spot because it's based off performance. Like if the
Yeah,
team
he's
loses,
too top of the. Yeah.
yeah, by our defense, or like even like if we try to run the ball, like it was in that Oklahoma State Baylor, um, what was it, the Big 12 playoff game? You look at that and you're like, that player sort of lost us the game, but it's a team loss. I mean, if you still throw up no interceptions and if Hendon Hooker ends the season with one interception, bruh, one interception to how many touchdowns and how many yards he's going to throw at the end of the season? There's no way. Like if it would be a true snub, like the Peyton Manning year. There's no way.
Yeah.
For sure.
Anything else that you guys got?
I'm gonna throw out my top 3 real quick.
Okay.
Hendon Hooker, number 1. CJ Stroud, number 2.
Will Levis, number 3.
I'm gonna go Blake Corum from Michigan, running back, number 3. Carried that team.
Oh yeah, I can see
But we
that.
can move on.
I could definitely see that. Okay, so next we'll do a quick little we're gonna do a UT Martin Tennessee ball score prediction. We'll see what you guys have to think about it. If Levi, you want to go ahead and start us out.
I'm gonna go with like, because last time I predicted a shutout and we didn't get the shutout, so I'm gonna say 60 66 to 3. No, yeah, 66 to 3 or 66 to 6 is what I'm gonna say.
Okay, Trevor.
Obviously not as big of a game as Bama, nowhere even close. We'll see how this team prepares and how they come out and play. Not really concerned. It's UT Martin. I hope they. I mean, even if they sleepwalk through this game, they're gonna win by a lot. I'm gonna go 55-17. I think they score a little bit on us, but it's never in question.
Yeah, mine's really close to that, Trevor, but not really. I have 56-0. I'm going based off the fact that we are going to be playing a lot of people. And with the way our backups played in the Alabama game versus Alabama, there's no way that UT Martin can score. And even if they score, it's going to be a field goal, maybe a touchdown. So I could do a 56-10. I think we're going to get our offense. We're going to get some running backs in there. We're going to get our wide receivers in there. I think Hendon Hooker, if you get about halftime and you're up 30-something to nothing, bring him out. We cannot have Hendon Heisman get injured. Bring Joe Milton in. He can sling the ball. I'd love to see some of the other players also get involved too. Some of these other backup quarterbacks. Tavon Jackson, I love him. I'd love to see him play, especially with the play. He got in the Akron game, but that's my score prediction. Okay, now we're going to be getting into our SEC power rankings for this week. Trevor, if you want to go ahead and get us started out.
Yeah. So after Tennessee's big win, I've got them number 1. That's my first takeaway. They're the best team in the SEC as of right now. And there's no doubt in my mind. If you guys follow our Instagram, which go follow it, Andrew has Georgia number 1. I really wish we could have had him on today because he needs to explain himself. Because I'm kind of mad about that. But yeah, I think 4th and 5th are also pretty clear to me too. I feel like Ole Miss is the 4th best team in the SEC. Got a great chance to finish the season undefeated and beat Bama in a couple weeks. Kentucky 5. Obviously a disappointing loss to South Carolina. You gotta put that on Will Levis being injured. He means a lot to that team, whether or not he's good. I mean, he's not very good, but and then LSU 6. They kind of round out the top 6, and those are my clear top 6, in my opinion. Mississippi State had a disappointing loss last week. I forgot who they lost to. I'm blanking. Oh, it was Kentucky. Yeah, sorry. It's Kentucky. They had a disappointing loss to Kentucky. Really thought they were going to win that game. It seems like to me that the 7 through 10 are kind of interchangeable as of right now. So you could argue South Carolina would be higher after their win against Kentucky, but yeah, that's my power rankings.
All right. I'll go ahead and get into mine. Um, So of course, I have Tennessee at 1. I think the resume just puts them there. Um, I'm not going to talk about the top too much, just because we've taken a lot of time. So I'm going to try and go fast. The top: Tennessee, Georgia, Bama. I'm not going to really discuss it too much. I mean, we've been talking about all three of those teams the whole episode, so no need to go into it. So I got Ole Miss at 4. I think that goes without saying, just because they're undefeated. I don't know if they're really the fourth best team in the SEC. I don't. I mean, they've only played Kentucky. They're better than Kentucky, and that's the team that's behind them. So yeah. Then LSU, then Mississippi State, then Texas A&M. For me, 9 and below, or no. 7 or 6 through 11. 6 through 11 are pretty interchangeable in a lot of ways. Because I think LSU takes the cake at the top of that list of my 6 through 11, just because they've played pretty good recently, other than against us. So that's why I'm putting them there. And then South Carolina I have at the bottom, just because they have had some good games, but I don't know. It's kind of hard to rank a lot of the SEC teams. Like, of course, the bottom 3 and the top 3, I don't think you can change. For me personally, I think Missouri, Auburn, Vanderbilt, easily the worst 3. Tennessee, Georgia, Bama, easily the best 3. And then everyone in the middle is just kind of meh, or just like slightly above average. So it's hard to rank them. But that's my ranking. I mean, yeah, I guess I'll hand it off to Connor with that.
Yeah, really looking at mine, there's only like one big thing that, or two really big things that I want to bring up. Obviously, I have Ole Miss above Bama. Really, just the way for me, it's just from last week's play and how Alabama lost. I think with Ole Miss still being undefeated, for me, they just jumped Bama. I think really that 3 spot is between Ole Miss, Bama, and Arkansas. I think Bama's going to take it at the end of the year. Bama might be able to jump up to 2 if Alabama beats or if Georgia loses to us in the upcoming week. The only other thing which I realized that I actually made a mistake in was my Mississippi State, Texas A&M. I meant for those to be switched. I like Mississippi State up there with there being a top 25 ranking, and obviously with the close games they played, they've already beat Texas A&M, so that's where they should obviously be above Texas A&M. Really, with that, just bottom of the half is really all it's going to be. I mean, Vanderbilt, Auburn, Missouri, they're really fighting for who's going to be the worst team in the SEC this year, and with that, that's really all that I have to take away for this week. Next week's power rankings for me will be different for sure, especially with the play that we have. But if you guys don't have anything else, we can go ahead and end off this episode.
Yep.
But okay, well, with that, it concludes another great episode of the VolBoyz podcast. While you're here watching, remember to subscribe and also follow us on our socials, Instagram and Twitter. We have these power rankings out there. You guys can go to the comments, agree, disagree, tell us your take on those. That's VolBoyz podcast with a Z. Remember to tune in to the next episode, and if you haven't, y'all can go back and watch last week's episode where we talked about the precursor to the Alabama game, different stuff like that. And we also had in that episode we got to do it with Tennessee Topic. Great guy. Go follow his socials. And with that, y'all have a great week. And thanks for everyone for tuning in. And always remember, it's great to be a Tennessee Vol.
The Tennessee Volunteers are back. They're back.